Let's get real. Most people are too afraid to tell you to your face that they don't like you. Instead, they hide behind fake smiles, hollow compliments, and forced politeness. I've been there too, thinking someone was a friend, only to find out they were secretly hoping for my downfall. It's brutal, but here's the truth. If you don't recognize the signs, you'll end up wasting your time and energy on people who, deep down, can't understand you. So let's cut through the BS and talk about the signs that someone dislikes you but is hiding it. You might not like what you hear, but it's better to face the truth than live in denial. 1. They're always joking about your flaws. We all know that one person who loves to joke, especially when the joke is on you. They'll pick at your quirks, your mistakes, and your little imperfections, and they do it with a smile, saying, "I'm just messing with you." It seems harmless at first, but let's not kid ourselves. These jokes are often more than just playful banter. They're calculated digs, cleverly disguised as humor, meant to chip away at your self-esteem bit by bit. I remember a time when I was close to someone who always had something to say about me, how I dressed, the way I spoke, even the projects I was working on. At first, I laughed it off, thinking it was all in good fun. But as time went on, I noticed a pattern. The jokes were always aimed at my perceived weaknesses, never at my strengths. It wasn't long before I started second-guessing myself, wondering if maybe I was the problem, if maybe these flaws were as glaring as they made them out to be. Here's where the controversy kicks in. People who consistently joke about your flaws aren't doing it out of affection. They're testing the waters to see how much disrespect you'll take. It's a subtle form of manipulation, a way for them to assert dominance while keeping you in your place. They're telling you, in no uncertain terms, that you're beneath them. And the most insidious part? They get away with it because we've been conditioned to believe that if we can't take a joke, we're the ones with the problem. But let's flip that script. I'm here to tell you that there's nothing wrong with standing up for yourself when a joke crosses the line. In fact, it's essential. You deserve to be around people who lift you up, not those who knock you down just to get a cheap laugh. True friends don't need to point out your flaws to feel better about themselves. They celebrate your strengths and help you work through your weaknesses without making you the butt of the joke. I've seen it happen time and again. People let these kinds of jokes slide, thinking it's easier to keep the peace than to make waves. But here's the deep truth. Allowing others to disrespect you, even in jest, is a slippery slope. It starts with small comments, but over time, those jokes can wear you down, making you question your worth. The more you allow it, the more they'll push until you're left doubting yourself. All because you didn't want to seem too sensitive. I had to learn this the hard way. I realized that by laughing along, I was giving them permission to keep going. I was complicit in my own disrespect. It wasn't until I started pushing back, setting boundaries, that I noticed a shift. Not just in how they treated me, but in how I saw myself. I stopped letting their words define me and started owning my narrative. So here's my advice. The next time someone makes a joke at your expense, don't just laugh it off. Ask yourself, is this really funny? Or is there something more going on here? And if the answer is the latter, don't be afraid to call them out. It might be uncomfortable. It might even end the friendship, but your self-respect is worth far more than someone's misguided sense of humor. In the end, life is too short to surround yourself with people who can't see your value. If their idea of friendship is constantly pointing out your flaws, then it's time to find new friends. The ones who truly care about you will never need to put you down to feel good about themselves. So stand tall, speak up, and don't let anyone reduce you to a punchline. 2. They give compliments that sting like insults. We've all been there. Someone gives you a compliment, but instead of feeling good, you're left with a bitter aftertaste, like you've just been slapped with a velvet glove. It's the kind of compliment that makes you pause and think, wait, was that a compliment or an insult? And here's the harsh reality. Often, it's a bit of both. These backhanded compliments are a subtle, almost sneaky way for people to undermine you while pretending to be kind. I remember a time when I was working on a big project that I was incredibly proud of. After putting in countless hours of hard work, I finally shared it with a group of colleagues. One of them, someone I thought was a supporter, said with a smile, "Wow, this is actually pretty good for someone like you." I stood there, stunned. On the surface, it seemed like a compliment, but those last few words, for someone like you, hit me like a ton of bricks. What did that even mean? Was I not supposed to be capable of doing good work? And that's the controversy here. These so-called compliments are laced with a hidden agenda. They're not meant to uplift you. They're designed to keep you in your place. It's a power play, a way for the person giving the compliment to assert their superiority while making you doubt your own abilities. They're saying, I see you trying, but you'll never be as good as me. It's toxic, but it's wrapped up in such a pretty package that you almost miss the poison inside. Let's be real. People who give backhanded compliments are often insecure themselves. They see your potential, your strengths, and it scares them. So they use these sly little digs to keep you second-guessing yourself, to make sure you don't rise too high. It's like they're patting you on the back while holding you down with the other hand. Here's the deep message. You don't have to accept this disguised hostility. You have the power to reject it, to see it for what it really is, a reflection of their own insecurities, not a measure of your worth. When someone says, you're smarter than you look, or, this is good considering you're new at this, you don't have to swallow it whole. Call it out for what it is, even if it makes things awkward. Because if you don't, you're allowing them to dictate how you see yourself, and that's a power you should never hand over to anyone. I've learned to recognize these compliments for what they are, a mirror reflecting someone else's insecurities. And when you see it that way, it loses its sting. Instead of internalizing it, you can almost laugh it off because at the end of the day, their words say more about them than they ever will about you. So here's what I do now. When I receive a backhanded compliment, I don't let it slide. Tune changes. The takeaway? Don't let anyone's veiled negativity define you. Whether it's a well-meaning friend, a jealous colleague, or even a family member. Remember this, your worth isn't up for debate. Compliments should lift you up, not tear you down. If someone's words leave you questioning yourself, it's time to question their intentions instead. Life is too short to waste on people who can't genuinely celebrate your successes. Surround yourself with those who see your value and aren't afraid to let you know it, without any strings attached. 3. They subtly exclude you from plans. It's the little things that sting the most, like realizing that your so-called friends accidentally forgot to invite you to that dinner, that party, or that weekend getaway. They'll swear it was an oversight, that it was a last-minute thing, or worse, they'll assume you were too busy anyway. But let's be real. These aren't accidents. This is social exclusion in its sneakiest form, and it's a clear sign that you're not as valued as you think. I've been on the receiving end of this too many times. I remember checking my phone one weekend and seeing pictures of a group of friends having a great time at an event I would have loved to attend. The kicker? Not a single person. A failure of friendship. It's a betrayal of trust. Life isn't always smooth sailing, and when you're hit with a rough patch, whether it's personal loss, a career setback, or even just feeling emotionally drained, you need your people. Real friends show up, no questions asked. But when someone who claims to care about you vanishes, it reveals where you stand in their list of priorities. I remember a time when I was going through a really tough situation, and I reached out to someone I thought was a close friend. They gave me excuses. Too busy, too overwhelmed, always something else going on. Meanwhile, they had time to hang out with others or engage in activities that clearly weren't as pressing as they made them seem. It stung because it wasn't about them not having the time. It was about them not wanting to invest that time in me. Here's the thing, people make time for what matters to them. If someone consistently disappears when you need them the most, it's not just a coincidence. It's a sign that they aren't willing to be there for you when it counts. Maybe they enjoy the good times but aren't equipped or willing to stick around during the bad ones. And that's not just disappointing. It's a deal breaker for any meaningful relationship. The tough part? Confronting the reality that someone you value might not value you the same way. But it's essential. Ignoring this behavior or making excuses for them only allows it to continue. You deserve people in your life who can weather the storms with you, not just ride the highs. What I've learned through my own experiences is that when someone consistently disappears during hard times, it's better to cut them loose. Real relationships, whether friendships, family ties, or romantic connections, are built on mutual support. And if someone can't offer that when it's most needed, they aren't really there for you at all. So here's my takeaway. Pay attention to who shows up when you need support the most. Those who stick by you, even when it's inconvenient or difficult, are the ones worth keeping close. And those who disappear, they've shown you where they stand, so take it as a cue to move on. Life is too short to invest in people who aren't willing to invest in you, especially when times are tough. Gossip isn't just idle chatter. It's an attack on trust, and once that trust is broken, it's hard to repair. When someone you consider a friend spreads your personal stories, it feels like they've taken a part of you and twisted it for their own gain or entertainment. They reduce your vulnerabilities to fodder for casual conversation, and that's not something that can be taken lightly. I've been there, and I know the feeling of betrayal that comes with finding out someone you trusted has been talking behind your back. You expect that trust to be respected, and when it's not, it can shake your faith in the relationship and, in some cases, in people in general. The worst part is the helplessness, knowing that your words have been distorted, and that there's nothing you can do to stop the ripple effect it causes. Here's the harsh reality. People who gossip about you aren't just making conversation. They're tearing down your character while boosting their own social standing. It's about power, plain and simple. By spreading your private matters, they position themselves as the gatekeeper of information, feeding on the attention that gossip naturally draws. They might play innocent or claim it was just talk, but the damage done is real, and it's deep. When I confronted my so-called friend, I expected some sort of remorse, but what I got instead was indifference. They shrugged it off, which made me realize something important. People who don't respect your boundaries won't respect your feelings either. They see nothing wrong with their actions because, to them, your trust wasn't something valuable. It was just another story to tell. If you've ever been on the receiving end of gossip, you know how isolating and hurtful it can be. You start to question who else knows what's been said and who you can really trust moving forward. It can be a lonely experience, especially if it happens in a group setting where the lines between friends and foes become blurred. The key takeaway here is this: gossip is a red flag, not just about the person spreading it, but also about the relationship itself. If someone can talk about you behind your back, they clearly don't value your friendship as much as they should. It's a sign that they're not invested in your well-being, and that's something you shouldn't ignore. In my case, cutting ties was the only option. You deserve relationships where your trust is honored, not exploited. Surround yourself with people who protect your secrets, stand up for you when you're not around, and care about your reputation as much as their own. Those who thrive on gossip, on the other hand, are not worth your time or emotional investment. Their behavior speaks volumes about their character, and that's something you can't change. So, the next time you hear someone gossiping, remember this. If they're willing to talk about someone else behind their back, they'll likely do the same to you. Don't let yourself become part of that toxic cycle. Stand up for your values, confront the behavior, and walk away if necessary. Your peace of mind and integrity are worth far more than a few minutes of juicy gossip.